Welcome to the What is Stoicism podcast.
The Roman philosopher Cicero wasn't Stoic himself, but his writings about Stoicism have been invaluable to those studying the philosophy in the centuries since he composed them. In his Stoic paradoxes, he attempts to explain 6 famous Stoic sayings that appear to go against common understanding. The first of these is, "Virtue is the only true good," which I'm providing a reading of in this episode. It's a useful piece of work to reflect on as it helps us understand what the Stoics truly valued and how they believed one could make progress toward the good life. It reads as follows: "Virtue is the only true good." I fear that for some of you, this work may be seen as arising from the disputations of the Stoic school, rather than from my own sense. Yet I will say what I believe, and will state it more concisely than the situation calls for. I have never held that the money of these people, or their fine houses, or their official stations, or the other delights that shackle them, have been things worth seeking, for they seem most lacking in the very things that abound in their lives. The thirst of desire in anyone is neither filled nor satiated, and those who have such things are tortured by ever-increasing desire, as well as by a fear of losing those things. Thus I often take notice of the prudence of our unbroken line of ancestors, who thought such transitory and impermanent things worthy of being called goods in name only, since they had judged them in reality to be much different. Is it possible for a good thing to be an evil for anyone? Or is it possible for someone to be not good when he is swimming in good things? And of all such things, whether good or bad, we observe this, that bad men possess them, and that they obstruct good men. For this reason, whoever wants to may laugh at me. For me, true reason will be more valid than the opinion of the mob. I will never say that a man who has lost cattle or good furniture has not lost something valuable. I will also often praise the wisdom of Bias, who I believe is counted as one of the 7. When his city Priene was taken by the enemy, and many were fleeing with their belongings, he was advised by someone to do the same thing. "But I truly am doing this," he replied, "for I already am carrying them with me." He did not think of these playthings of fortune as goods in the same way that we call them goods. So someone may ask, what then is a good? I believe the only true good, that which is truly said to be a good thing, is that which is done rightly, honestly, and with virtue. But these things can be seen to be more off-putting when they are discussed too methodically. They must be illustrated by life and by the deeds of great men, rather than discussed with overwrought literary phrases. I ask you this: did those who so brilliantly founded our republic and left it for our safekeeping have any thought of silver or greed or lavish places for their enjoyment, or sumptuous furniture for their delight, or exquisite dinners for their pleasure? Place them before your eyes one at a time. Of the ancient kings, would you start with Romulus? Or would you look at the period after the expulsion of the kings, that is, at those who paved the way for the Republic? By what steps did Romulus ascend to heaven? Was it by those means that are called good, or by his great deeds and virtues? How? Are we to believe that the sacrificial bowls and earthenware cups from Numa Pompilia were less appropriate to the immortal gods than the embossed clay bowls of others? I leave out the rest of them, for they are all about equal with each other, except the king Tarquinius Superbus. If one were to ask Brutus what he accomplished in liberating his country, and if one were to ask the other comrades of his conspiracy what their goals were, who among them might be seen to have been aiming only at his own pleasure, his own aggrandizement, or anything else, rather than simply the basic public duty of a strong and great man? What secret motive impelled Gaius Mucius to kill Porsenna, without any thought of his own safety? What special power kept Cocles standing alone on the bridge against all the forces of the enemy? What was it that sent Decius the father and his son to a consecrated death against the armed forces of the enemy? Of what use was the continence of Gaius Fabricius, or the thrift of the victor Manius Curius, or of the 2 main fighters of the Punic War, who thought it their duty to expose their own bodies to the dangers of battle? And what about the elder or younger Africanus, or of Cato, who appeared between them in history, Or what about numerous others? Does not Roman history abound in such examples? Did these men think the only things worth pursuing in life were those things shallowly praiseworthy or appealing? Let those who mock this argument and judgment come now, and decide whether they prefer to resemble those who live in gleaming houses of marble, ebony and gold, who have statues, pictures, and embossed gold and silver ornaments and Corinthian artworks, or if rather they prefer to be like Gaius Fabricius, who neither had these things nor wanted them. And as for these things that are variously shifted around here and there, they are inclined to deny that they should be counted as good things. They maintain skillfully and advocate firmly that pleasure is the highest good. But this seems to me to be the opinion of an ox, not a man. You have been granted, whether it came from God or nature, a soul, which is the most supreme and divine thing. Would you humiliate and prostrate yourself to such an extent that you would believe there is no difference between you and an unreasoning quadruped? Is there any good object that is able to make its possessor better? Just as he who shares fully in a good is most praiseworthy, so there is no good thing that is not able to bring some amount of glory to its possessor. But what of these things is to be found in sensual pleasure? Might it make a man better, or more laudable? Or what about he who makes a public show of glorying in his ability to score sensual pleasures? And if sensual pleasure, which is heartily endorsed by the allegiance of the majority, is not considered a good, and if the greater it is, the more it shifts the mind from its proper seat and foundation, then without doubt, the good and beautiful life consists only in living honestly and cleanly.